Hello, we are thrilled that you are joining us today as we talk about our 2022 bond referendum. But before we do that, I just want to talk about our unprecedented growth in the district. We are so excited to welcome so many new Tigers to Wills Point and our surrounding communities within our school district. I cannot tell you what a joy it is to have your children and these families join us and this community. I will tell you that we are thrilled about this bond referendum for one reason and one reason only. The fact that this community has made a decision that we're going to come together as a community, and we may not always agree, but we can agree on one thing. We can agree that we've got great kids and that we want to do what's the very best possible thing we can for those children. We can agree that we live in a fantastic community where we still know each other by their cars and we can wave at the Mary Street light. We also can agree to this, that no matter what happens in this community, we're going to ensure that we continue to do what's very best possibly that we can for our constituents, for our students, for our faculty and staff. All right, so our 2022 bond referendum, I want to talk to you a little bit about the people that were involved in this bond proposal and the driving factors that led to this proposal. So we had 25 members involved in our community that came together and spent a significant amount of time going through information, combing through data, talking about our unprecedented growth, and really looking at how can we move forward as a community to take care of the children that have been entrusted to our care. And so I want to say thank you to these 25 people for their willingness to just come to the table and hash some things out. And we believe that these 25 members, along with our administrative team, were able to come up with a plan that would sustain our future growth. At this time, we'd like to talk about the driving factors that help to inform the plan that we'll present to you. And those driving factors, one of them, quite frankly, has to do with safety. When we look at our middle school and junior high campus, we know we've talked for some time about the transitions that take place on those two campuses. At our middle school campus, we have kids moving in and out of the building multiple times during the day in order to access cafeteria, the gymnasium, and the L wing. In our junior high campus, we have those students also moving in and out of the building in order to cross the street to go to the band hall. Those become some really significant safety concerns. Anytime we have kids that are not contained in the main building and we know that they're crossing or walking down public roadways, that increases our safety and security concerns significantly. And so part of this was addressing concerns about that movement. Another piece to the puzzle has to do with our overall capacity. At our junior high school, you can see right now we're sitting in our 22-23 school year, and we are very close to the capacity for that campus. Last year we grew at a 7%. This year we grew right at 5%, and we are continuing to see students enroll. If we continue to grow at that rate, and there is no data to indicate that we will not, in the 23-24 school year, we will be at max capacity on our junior high campus. What that means is by 24-25, we will not have enough seats at our junior high for the number of students that we'll need to serve. We don't want that to happen for anyone, and so we need a plan in order to address our capacity concerns. In looking at capacity, the next thing that we had to discuss is the actual size of the property of our campuses. And specifically looking at our junior high campus, we have some land constraints there. We could look at adding on to that building and doing some interior renovation. However, we would need to add on some fairly large structures, gymnasium, band hall, to keep those kids from having to move back and forth across the street and to add our sixth graders. In order to do that, we're pretty landlocked on a 9-acre lot. So when we looked at a 9-acre lot, we began to have to rethink how we might purpose this building. In addition, when we look at our Woods Intermediate campus, that Woods Intermediate campus is on a 19-acre lot. So when we began to think about those campuses, we have significantly more room as we look at our Woods Intermediate campus as opposed to our junior high campus. So that information were part of the driving factors that led to the bond proposal that we're going to share with you.
This bond proposition will come to the taxpayer in the amount of $40 million. So what does that mean on a monthly basis for our taxpayer with the $40 million proposition? It will come to you as a 24-cent increase into your property tax rate as it pertains to Wills Point ISD. So if we look at our middle $200,000, then on a homesteaded property, you get your $40,000 exemption. You'll be looking at around $32 per month. When we look at our businesses, any kind of rental property, non-homesteaded property, commercial property, we would be looking at approximately $40 a month. When we look at the average homesteaded value in Wills Point ISG, the average homeowner will cost them $34 per month. When we look at the average rental house in Wills Point ISD, we're looking at around a $12 a month increase. When we take Wills Point ISD as a whole and do a comparison with Kaufman and Van Zandt County, we can see here that Wills Point ISD is the only school district in Kaufman and Van Zandt County that does not have any INS tax at this time. That means that Wills Point ISD does not have any debt. However, it also alleviates the opportunity for us to be able to do large capital improvements like additions and renovations to campus.
All right, so when we look at our bond plan, remember we just talked to you about the fact that Woods Intermediate is on a 19-acre lot. So we're going to talk about what will we do with Wills Point Junior High School. Well, what we'll do is Woods Intermediate would transition and become Wills Point Junior High School, and there's some very specific reasons for that. Part of that has to do with the 19 acres that we talked about previously. The other part of that is because that allows us to move our 6th grade students with our 7th and 8th grade students. In doing that, that allows us to pull all of our secondary kiddos together. When we think about curriculum and instruction, all of those textbooks are written by the same authorship teams. When we look at vertical alignment from 6th through 8th grade, that allows us to align more readily and easily so that students are more prepared as they head into high school to be able to be successful at the high school level. So we're really excited about that opportunity for our kids. What would happen at Woods Intermediate? Well, first and foremost, you would see a proposed addition in the front. That front addition would be for office space and a library. From there, the current office space would be renovated into science labs, classrooms. This would allow us to basically use this front wing for our 6th grade students, which would mean we would also have a 7th grade and an 8th grade wing on that particular campus. Here, this is where our current library is. We would have additional classrooms there and then fine arts space, which would be a band hall, art, theater, possibly choir would be located in those areas as we think about fine arts. Obviously, that's attached to the building, which means we no longer have kids crossing the street, walking a block, or having to go outside of the exterior of the building to go to those extracurricular courses. In addition, as we look at this wing here, this is our current cafeteria. And so that current cafeteria and gymnasium would be transitioned into the other science labs. In doing that, however, we would maintain our current kitchen. By maintaining the current kitchen space, we would then flip-flop the serving area for our cafeteria, and that would be a brand new build, basically where part of our playground is located currently. That brand new build of a cafeteria, in addition to public restrooms and gymnasium space, would be located here in addition to locker rooms. That will allow us to have locker rooms as well as gymnasiums, concession stand, restrooms for all of our junior high activities. Remember, as we add 6th grade to this building, instructionally, that also means adding over 200 kids to our gymnasiums. And so that's why it's going to be extremely important for us to have 2 gymnasiums in order to get all of our kids through PE and athletics. In doing that, that keeps us from having to bus kids back and forth to our other district facilities as well for practices. You'll see this will be our bus drive, then we'll have school pickup. Kids will practice at the existing old track, so that will be the practice field for our outdoor athletic activities, as well as our outdoor possible track activities. Will resurface that track area, but the interior of that field will just be grass, but it'll give our kids a place to practice without having to cross the street. Remember, part of our goal here is to keep kids enclosed in a campus area and to not have them crossing public roadways for class. Also remember that anytime we do additions of this nature, we would add a storm shelter. So within this building, there would also be a storm shelter that would house all of the students, employees, and any guests we might have at that time as a tornado shelter.
All right, so now we want to talk about the next transition when it comes to our campuses in this plan. So in this plan, the current junior high campus would become Woods Intermediate School. So let's take a look at that real quick. You're doing some additions and some renovations to this campus. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing here. So the proposed plan for this campus would be that we add 14 classrooms to this portion of the building, this top corner of the building. That would be as well, it would serve as a storm shelter for this campus, which would house everyone on the campus, students and staff, in the case of an emergency. And then this middle portion you see here currently serves as some science labs. We would cut that portion up, renovate that into some additional classrooms as well. So you really could be looking at an 18 classroom addition when you talk about the current space we have here, as well as the addition that we have on the corner of the top. Now, the playground area, since this would be an intermediate school, 2nd through 4th grade, we're going to have the playground area fenced off and secure next to that new addition. The playground equipment would be set in here, and we would utilize the equipment that we have now, just relocate that equipment to this new site. Now there are a couple of other things we're going to be doing to the back hallway to this campus. Currently those doors open, and as they open, they only open to a 90 degree in conjunction with that wall of the hallway. So they're sticking straight out into the hallway, which creates traffic problems when students are changing classes, and they stick out and kind of just cause some problems whenever the bell rings. So what we're going to do there is we would create basically pockets or inset those door frames enough to where when the door opens, they're flush with a wall and they're not sticking out in the hallway. It's going to give us about 2.5 to 3 feet of each side of the hallway. We will gain some space there whenever the classes are changing. So that'll help us out tremendously. The other thing we're going to do on that back hallway is address some of the HVAC problems, not really problems, the setup of the HVAC. Right now we have one HVAC unit that runs all of the back hallway classrooms, which creates a problem when you've got one thermostat in a classroom. That room is probably very comfortable and stays cool, while the other end of the hallway tends to stay fairly warm just because of the distance it's having to cover. So we would fix that as well, address the thermostat problem, and add additional HVAC units. Now, let's talk a little bit about traffic flow. You'll notice that we have a road that wraps around the building into a staff parking lot. This road would be a double stack lane. It would serve as a fire lane as well as parent drop off and pickup. We could take this lane, wrap around the building, which pulls traffic off of Tiger Drive, and it gets it out of the primary traffic lane as well. So it takes those parents around, they can come around the building, drop off, pick up the afternoons, and keep them off of Tiger Drive, and then they can head right back out and go about their way. This also provides about 58 parking spots for staff. If we needed additional, this is always something we can extend. It's not something we could not do here with the space we have. The other thing this will provide on this campus is a bus pickup lane area that's actually on site, on the campus. Currently, our buses have to line up across the street on Lillian to pick up students in the afternoon. So this would prevent students, by creating this area for buses, it would prevent students from having to walk across the street in the afternoons, having to stop traffic and them crossing that road, walking in between buses, all the things that we're concerned about on the safety side, we would be able to address by adding a bus pickup lane right down here. So that's what we would handle on this campus. I will tell you as well, you're probably wondering, what are we going to do with the old band hall? That band hall can become a centralized police station for our Wills Point ISD Police Department, as well as a training center for teachers and staff. So there's plenty of room there to provide a space for training and what we might need as a police department as we grow. Now, I will tell you also that the current junior high field house is another building that would be empty in this situation. So we would be able to utilize that for storage, which we are in great need of in our district. So those are what we would do with those 2 extra buildings we would have in this transition. So you're probably asking, well, what do we do now? So we have these other buildings, and how does it affect other buildings? So the Wills Point Middle School would go in as a would remain as a 5th grade campus only. So our 5th graders would be there. So you're cutting your student enrollment population in half there. So you would go from about approximately 400 students to approximately 200 students on that campus. Well, what that means is we could use the centralized main building for the classroom spaces that we need at the middle school. We would not be utilizing the East Wing or the old L Wing for 5th grade classes anymore. So there are 2 places where students would still have to walk outside, and that's to the gymnasium and to the cafeteria. Since they are 5th grade, they're not in band, so they're not having to walk down the street to go to the band hall and things of that nature, and they're not walking in the East Wing between classes anymore, because we would only be utilizing the middle, the main portion of the building. So that's how we handle that campus. In doing this, it frees up some space at our high school. We gained 2 classrooms for sure at our high school. So by our East Wing being open and available, we could move our graduation acceleration program kids, our GAP students, that GAP program, we could move those students to the East Wing. And those are half-day students, 5 days a week. They would just need a classroom space to do the program that they're involved in. The other thing we could do with the East Wing, we could take our DAEP students that are in a portable right now and have a space for them out on the East Wing as well. And then our IT department, we have our IT staff that are housed in a classroom at the high school currently. Those guys can set up in one of the classrooms or a couple of classrooms there at the middle school in the East Wing, since we're not using it for classroom space. So you'd gain 2 classrooms at the high school, you'd get students out of the DAEP portable, but then the last thing we would do is provide a place for our 18+ students. And what that is special education students that are learning some occupational skills that they can take with them. And they're half day, about 3 days a week. And so we could use the East Wing to do some of those things also. So we're taking some of the pressure off the high school simply by making the middle school a 5th grade, keeping it as a 5th grade campus. And then lastly, by some of the traffic flow that we would be addressing at what would be the new intermediate school, right? The current junior high would be the new intermediate school. We would help with some of the traffic issues we were seeing that are related more so to the primary campus. So we're getting people off of Tiger Drive, and we're moving the bus stack-up line and all those kind of things that would help us out with our primary traffic. And then this transition, by doing this, going with this plan, would provide 500 seats for our students across our district. Now this whole project, we're looking at a completion date or completion timeline of 18 months, which puts us roughly getting students in these buildings in August of 2024, which would address the capacity concern that we saw at the very beginning as one of our driving factors.
So now let's talk about our bond election timeline. As you know, the Wills Point ISD School Board held a special meeting on August 22nd. That was the last day a board could vote to push out a bond referendum. Our school board did vote for that on August 22nd. If you prepare to vote in this election, and don't forget it is a governor's race as well, so we are anticipating a high voter turnout, the last day for you to register to vote is October 11th. Early voting will take place October 24th through November 4th. And the election day, please don't forget, is on a Tuesday, November 8th. So let's talk about who can vote. There are some common misconceptions out there about who is eligible to vote in this kind of election. If your primary residence is in the Wills Point ISD service area, so that means if you own a home, rent a home, anything like that, your driver's license is in the Wills Point ISD service area, you are eligible to vote. For voting locations, October 24th through November 4th, early voting, you can vote at the Van Zandt County Courthouse in Canton if you are a Van Zandt County resident. If you're a Kaufman County resident, there are multiple opportunities and venues for you to vote, and you can see that on the slides that we will share with you. On election day, remember that we will all vote in the city of Wills Point or in your Kaufman County voting locations. If you have any questions regarding the upcoming bond referendum for Wills Point ISD, please visit our website, wpisd.com. There is a special tab at the top that has all of our bond information on it. You are also always welcome to call the administration office if you have any questions that we can help you with.